But overall, my impression is I think like quality of the message, the content, like the moral message. I don't think it was as strong as in past Avatar, like the last Airbender with Aang. I don't think it was as strong as even the first two seasons. Like I'm not even sure what the message was. Like often they have like these little morals and stuff like that. Like and they had a few of them, of course, like Iroh telling uh, Avatar Korra, go speak to um, Zuko, right? You can't get in touch with the past avatars, but guess what? You can get in touch with the past avatar's best friend. He could probably give you some good advice. Plus, he's super old and stuff, so he probably just has lots of worldly wisdom. And I'm almost surprised Prince Zuko didn't try to counsel her himself, but maybe that's just part of his wisdom, right? He just knows that it's far better to wait to be asked for advice because people will be more receptive than to just go up and give it. Granted, there are ways you could set it up, start a little conversation and then, ask them about it, see what they say. If they give a positive response, you might give your advice on the subject. Like, let's say you want to give your sister advice on pregnancy, you ask her, hey, what's up, whatever, you have a little conversation, so how's everything going, blah, blah, blah. She talks about this, and eventually you're like, yeah, well, how's your pregnancy going, right? You ask her that question. She gives a reply. And then if the reply is like good and not defensive, then you have an opportunity to, discuss the topic further. And you could give your thoughts on it. Like, you should definitely name the child Korra. Don't ask me why. It's just got to be that name. Like, don't care if it's a boy or a girl. Brolin for boy. Um, so, what else do we want to say about this thing? Like, I had so much to say about the other ones just because I kind of did it like episode by episode in my head. But for this one, I just wanted to give like an overarching, like, general theme. Like let's talk about Zahir, I guess, right? That's pretty much 70% of the storyline right there. So Zahir talks about how as humans were developing, as nations were developing, as people were developing, communities, like there wasn't these huge nations that just governed everyone. People just were kind of like free to do what they wanted, like cavemen or forest people, right? They just went and collected berries and nuts and whatever, and traded with people and talked to people and had a good time and laughed and had fun and enjoyed life. And there's no speed limits, no tickets, no officers, no people patrolling, um, and that the world was more free, right? So that's kind of his premise, is that the natural order of the world was that, and that is what we should get back to, our roots. Right? And one thing I just want to be in the show is they never try to address it. They never try to say if that was a good idea or a bad idea. They're just like, hey, listen, dude, you can't go around killing people. We're going to stop you. You know? So that's what they just kind of avoided the philosophical argument altogether. The idea is that a better world to go back to how we came. Um, I'm going to actually try and answer it real quick. And I'm going to answer is no. My first one is just empirical evidence, right? Historical evidence is what I'm trying to say. Evidence we've seen. And, my cat. So every nation in the world, no matter where you are, whether you're in some crazy African tribe, whether you're in Egypt, whether you're in wherever, Bangladesh, wherever, every single place eventually forms a government. Why? It's not like God came down and told them, hey, you guys have to form a government. Or they all got together and said, hey, let's all form governments all throughout the world. No, it's just governments naturally form. Right? They naturally form and they naturally last. Why? Because it seems to be the most sustainable method of coexisting. So it looks like the here that in the long run is just wrong. It just seems governments are better than non-governments, right? If non-governments seem to be more stable, more healthy, and better, then they would all be around, right? So there's that. Is that actually the natural order is it tends towards government. human beings tend towards government, which makes sense. It's like we all live in the same area. Eventually, we fight a bunch of times, and then we try to come to some agreements. Like, hey, listen, this is your area, this is your land, this is my land. We're going to try to trade peacefully. You know, if you kill one of our people, we're going to kill one of your people. And guess what we're forming is some sort of alliance between two groups, right? Eventually, over time, these two groups say, listen, we can do a lot more together if we work together. And these two groups merge into one bigger group, and you have this super group. There might be like two leaders with little advisors in there, and yeah, so governments just form very naturally. And even in Ba Sing Se, which is right now in all this chaos, which I kind of was disappointed they didn't go more into that. Like, hey, what are they going to do for Ba Sing Se? Like, are they going to set up a government? Um, Obviously, season 4 is where that's picking up. They're like, hey, we're going to deal with that in season 4. But, book 4. But, yeah, so even in Ba Sing Se, eventually some sort of government will form, whether it be run by bandits or whatever, some sort of structure is going to be formed. Um, and the last point I want to make towards this whole, like, oh, why don't we all just live free and, like, whatever, and live off the land and be all hippies and stuff, um, is this. So, let's say that was the state of the world right now. No government, no nothing, and really you're just on your own, living life, doing stuff, right? Walking around, talking to people, doing your thing. Okay, so what's going to happen very naturally? Naturally what's going to happen is you're going to be fishing and whatever, and you're going to encounter other people. You're going to talk to those people. You're going to make friends with those people. Uh, you're going to find a mate with one of those people. And you're going to eventually create a little community around yourself. You're going to have your two friends, Tom and Jerry. You're going to have your girlfriend, Vanessa, or if you're a girl right now listening to this, you'll have your boyfriend, Hans. Uh, right? And so you're going to make these relationships. And within these relationships, there's going to be a social structure. There's going to be an agreement. Like, you're like, Hans, you can't just slap me in the face for no reason. Or, Vanessa, you can't go sleep with all these random people. Okay? You're going to have agreements. And with your friends, you're going to have agreements, right? Like on how you split the food. Let's say you both fish that day. How you split it? You split it 50-50. Are you like the way better fisherman? So you catch like 90% of the fish, but you're nice, so you do like 2/3, 1/3 for your buddy, so that he can eat and whatever. But he's skilled at other things, like collecting walnuts. He's a really good climber. So you have these little like exchanges that go on. Like, so you're going to have agreements going on between these two parties. And once these two parties start agreeing on things, you're basically starting to form a mini government, right? This guy can't just randomly start attacking you, right? Because that'll just break the agreement, ruin all the trades and the social bonds that you created. And lastly on this topic before I move on is another way to see that governments form very naturally is every single human, whether they're in a big society like the U.S. or Great Britain or whatever, every single human has a internal government, kind of like I'm talking about, like the friendships and whatever. But I'll take it one step deeper. Of your friends, there's probably the friend that is the quote-unquote leader of your group. They're the most charismatic. Um, they're the idea that just people just happen to like their ideas the most. Like they come up with an idea and people just tend to be drawn to them. And they like what they do. They're probably a very independent person, right? Because if you're independent, that means you don't need other people. So you're kind of making your own fun, and that attracts other people. So there's someone in your group that probably, if you're doing something, most of the ideas came from them. Not 100%, but most, right? And that'd be the quote-unquote leader of that group. And this happens really naturally just because there's one guy that's just slightly more charismatic, slightly has better ideas, and has more fun, and then people just begin to associate funness and good times with that person, so they start listening to him for everything, right? So, yeah, and that's just natural roles. You might be second or third in the little group pyramid, whatever, but you'll be somewhere in there. right? And right there, which is just going to happen amongst friends, just eventually one friend is going to be slightly more charismatic, etc. You're going to have some sort of government, or if you have kids, right? The parents are like your government. Dad and mom are like the government. They set all the rules and all that good stuff. So, and your popular friend, your little leader, will be able to set some rules, right? Because they're going to have more leeway in situations than you. So there's that. Is government is just supernatural. Supernatural. It's like not natural. No, the government is natural. It's just going to form. It's going to happen. It makes sense. So logically, it just makes sense that it's going to happen. And it also is just a beneficial state, right? There's protection, there's agreement. Like they know, hey, if we're attacked, we all know that we're going to get together and stop it, right? Like there's safety in it. There's understanding, right? So you have expectations of your neighbors and your surroundings. Um, and I guess the last point would be to quote, I don't know who said it, but it's like absolute freedom is not free. So it's saying like anarchy is not free, and this is because you lose safety, you lose, you have no expectations, you have no enforcement for contracts, right? If this guy just wants to be a tool and just take all your stuff, right? Like after you fished everything, he just takes it all and leaves. Like even though he agreed to trade you for walnuts, there's no enforcement, right? So you're actually less free to do stuff. You have to be scared for your life. You could get sick and just die because there's potentially no doctor. There's just like a lot less stuff you can do. That and technology would be way lower, right? Because it's just hard to get people to work together in a constructive manner for a long period of time. So you'd have, you wouldn't be able to like. Right now, we live in a government which has some restrictions on us, but we have way more freedoms. We're safe to walk around. We're safe to go talk and meet new people. We could go out for bowling. We could watch TV. We could drive. We could fly from one place to another, distances that are far away. Seem very small. We can talk to people online, but this is all because of what government has provided, right? The structure allowed for the other things to happen. Without government, you wouldn't have the other things happening. So, so there's that. And then the last point to Zahir is that the only good point for me is like that would be my response to Zahir. It's like, listen, you're just wrong. Disorder is not the natural order. Obviously, every single nation went towards government, so the natural order is some form of government. Um, my only other point to Zahir would be this: is that you are right about corrupt leaders. Like, what do we do? Like, we can't just have one corrupt dictator, like in North Korea or wherever, right? Where there's just one corrupt guy and he's just destroying the lives of his people, or like the leader of Ba Sing Se. Like, what is our response to that? Like, clearly there are dangers in how you set up your government. It may be really useful. That's why it happened in the first place. But if you get the wrong person there, it could be terrible. You can get a Prince Zuko, or King Zuko now, whatever the hell his name is, or you could get the lady from Ba Sing Se. It's like flip a coin. Who'd you get? So, I guess to that point, I think having one leader is probably the best way to get rid of that problem, or not having just one leader is probably the best way to get rid of that problem. Having like kind of like America has like the Congress and the Senate and the president, right? So they have like multiple branches that can stall and filibuster and counteract one another and share ideas and debate them. So having like a council, that would probably be better than having a single leader. So like there could be a head of council, but there should be like maybe like 7 people running an entire country, and one being the head of council. That way, you can have some sort of voting process, and if one person is trying to be all selfish and greedy for themselves, the other guys can kind of counterbalance that. So it mitigates some risk. Obviously, there's always problems. There's always going to be problems with just corrupt government. So, and for that, you just need to have good people. But it mitigates the risk. It just increases the chances that of the 7, there are some people that are good, or some of their selfishness and personal goals will counteract each other, right? So one person's not just always getting their way. So yeah, so I think that was really It'll kind of turn into a discussion of topics on like Legend of Korra's argument versus government or non-government. But yeah, I that's really all I got from the freaking episode was just, hey, there's a lot of cool fights. It's cool that Brolin could lava bend. Yeah, that's sweet. It was a fun anime to watch. But yeah, I think that was pretty much the biggest point. I guess it's the last comment I can make, which is mostly just an interesting observation. Maybe two. One would be, it looks like Zahir was able to fly after the girl he loved died. And if you like kind of listen to the passage he kept saying, it said like, be bound to this earth no more, release the tether, blah blah blah. So perhaps like him having a girl he really liked on this earth was like tethering him to this world, right? To the material things of this world, right? But once he like gives it all up, then he reaches true freedom, like no desire for anything material. And if you looked at the way he dressed and everything like that, he was very simple, very direct, with yeah, just nothing fancy. Just he didn't try to impress anybody, he didn't try to do anything, he just lived a simple life. So he's just kind of almost like a natural, genuine monk, slash airbender lifestyle, right? Life of simplicity. So I thought that was cool. Um, what else? Oh, when like Brolin was trying to pick up Opal and he was acting all weird and whatever, and she's like, you know what, just you have to stop trying, just be yourself, I mean, try, but just be yourself. I actually think that was not terrible advice when it comes to trying to talk to people, whether it's making friends or girlfriends or whatever. Is just be yourself because when you are yourself, there's a lot of depth to your character, right? There's a lot of things, like there's a lot of ways to have a conversation when you're yourself, right? Because you're a human being, you have really complex thoughts and emotions and crazy things, and you do weird things and you do normal things, and there's a big mixture of stuff, right? When you try to play a role, it's really easy to get moved off that character. So that and uh, being comfortable is probably the key. Just to be comfortable, because that's really what it was. And honestly, it wasn't the fact that he's whether being himself or not himself. It's just the fact he wasn't comfortable. So when you talk to people, just be comfortable and relaxed, and things will go. Don't take it too seriously. Have some fun. Just talk to people. And yeah, just being relaxed is probably the best piece of advice as far as I can think in that situation. And if you look at it, when he was trying to be himself, he was just relaxing, right? He's just talking. He just wasn't taking like, oh my gosh, you said yes, or oh my gosh, it's whatever. Go with the flow. Have fun. Talk. Don't let your nerves get in the way. So that's just basically what it is. Just relax and just have fun, have a conversation. So I actually thought that kind of was decent um, advice because like throughout this whole show, they're always talking about like relationships and like how to manage them, and that really is a centerfold to the show. It really kind of surprised me. It's like everyone has relationships. Like the little kids are having relationships, the adults are having relationships. And the past Avatar show was about relationships, but not so much the dating aspect of relationships. They're mostly about friendships and family and just doing things for them and being honest and caring and uh, what it means to be family, and also the problems realistic problems you're gonna see, like the backstabbing, the sibling rivalries, the lying, and all that stuff. Just because we're humans and we make mistakes and we get jealous, and how do we make up for that? Do we say, oh, you lied to me one time, therefore I'm never your friend again, and I'm never going to talk to you? It's like no, obviously you try to talk it out, multiple times, and sometimes you just let time heal the wound, right? It's like, you know what, we're not going to talk for a while, we'll just let time go by, and maybe things change in the future. So, it's, yeah, really interesting, and I like those, that'd probably be the best message that this series is showing, is it's focusing a lot more on those relationships, and just, things happen, right? And they're pretty realistic things that might happen. So if you're a young kid or even adult watching this, I think there's definitely life lessons to be learned. I don't think like always being blunt and upfront is the best way. Like, that seems to be like the real answer to things. It's like, you know what, just go up and tell them. Like, you like this guy, go up like, hey, I like you, right? Or you don't like this person, just go up and say, I don't like you. And then everything's going to work out perfectly well. Um, and I don't really think that's true at all, but I will say being honest is something I agree with. Like, don't be deceptive. But that being patient and having good conversations can eventually lead you to the point where you can just eventually say, I like you. Or, I think we need to do this, right? This is a problem. This is how we should solve it, right? So, I think just having lots of conversations is the best way. And then you'll know when it's time to just to deal with whatever. And sometimes you don't have time. You just have to go with it. Anyway, that's what I think of Legend of Korra season 3. Pretty sweet. Watch it if you haven't, and talk to you guys later.